I usually provide text annotation for my videos, but I like when other people making flying videos provide voice narration, so I thought I would give that a try for this one. The plan for this flight was to leave Wharton and head direct to Bay City with a landing at Bay City just for fun, and then continue on to the Gulf Coast. I would then head west down Matagorda Peninsula to the mouth of the Colorado River, and then return direct to Wharton. The weather looked beautiful with no chance for rain and winds around 7 knots out of the southeast. The whole flight would be about 100 nautical miles and take around 2 hours. So let's go. As I headed south, I noticed what appeared to be a large rain shower on the horizon, which was very odd considering the almost nil chance for rain that day, and the fact that the radar was clear. I soon realized, however, that it wasn't rain, but in fact smoke from a fire originating about where I was headed. I figured there was no harm in staying upwind of the smoke, so I'd continue on and get a closer look. I arrived at Bay City as planned. The airport has been undergoing construction for a number of months. When I was there earlier in the summer, the north end of the runway was closed, and now the south end is, with a relocated threshold 1,800 feet from the end. There's still plenty of room for a trike, however. The taxiway is closed completely, so the only way to get back to the start of the runway is back taxiing.
Bay City's traffic, flight support trike, back taxiing, 13 Bay City.
I eventually reached the source of the smoke. It was a large cluster of small fires on the north side of East Matagorda Bay. I later confirmed there was a controlled burn in the area that day, but there were no NOTAMs or airmets issued, and because there were no airports with weather stations in the path of the smoke, all the METARs were clear. I couldn't believe the amount of smoke this fire was generating, and this left me with a choice. Do I continue with the flight as planned, which would put me crossing the path of the smoke at some point, or do I fly down the beach a bit and then reverse course for the return trip, staying upwind of the fire at all times? I decided because I'd be flying 20 miles down the peninsula away from the source of the smoke and could always modify my flight path to fly directly downwind until the smoke thinned out a bit before crossing it, that I would stick to the original plan. You'll have to keep watching to see how that went, but for now, here's the town of Sargent with many waterfront properties and private piers. I thought this little bridge over here was kind of cool. After exploring Sargent, it was time to head down the peninsula, some of the most striking scenery I've flown over. I encountered a number of beachgoers enjoying the fair weather, in relative solitude given the size and remoteness of the beach. There's a settlement of beach houses on stilts near the mouth of the Colorado River, the point where I turn north to head back to Worden. I had fun racing with this boat over here. Here's the town of Matagorda proper. Behind me here is the cooling reservoir for the South Texas Project nuclear plant. Heading back to Wharton, the smoke looked like an impenetrable wall, and it was clear a direct path home wouldn't be feasible, at least at the altitude I was flying. I considered flying over the smoke, but I wasn't sure how high it rose, so I decided to fly downwind, paralleling it to see if it would thin out. After flying something like 25 miles downwind, it was clear it wasn't going to thin out enough for me to go through it, so I climbed to the top of it, which ended up being around 4,000 feet. I couldn't climb any higher due to clouds overhead. Forward visibility was fine, and although it was pretty hazy below me, I could still see the ground. Before long, I was over the smoke wall and on my way to an uneventful landing at Wharton. Smoke aside, this was one of the most enjoyable flights I've done to date, with great conditions and lots to see. It was a great learning opportunity as well, and I have a much healthier respect for the hazards to flight that even controlled fires can cause. In retrospect, I think a better course of action would have been to circumnavigate East Matagorda Bay. This would have kept me upwind of the fire while simultaneously providing more interesting scenery. It would have added maybe 25 minutes to the flight, but I had plenty of daylight and fuel, and as it was, I ended up adding that much flying downwind anyway. Barring that, I should have given climbing over the smoke a try sooner in an area that was clear of clouds. That's all for this flight. Thanks for watching.